My name is Eric Anderson, and I serve in the Idaho State Legislature as a representative. My home is about an hour and a half north of here, where I'm standing on the docks in Coeur d'Alene Lake. I live at Priest Lake, Idaho, and this is my 8th year of service in the legislature. Well, I think that it's imperative that we understand that as a natural resource, water is the basis for what we have here. Not only the recreation, but our farming in the south, the fisheries that we have, tremendous fisheries in Idaho, and in the entire Northwest. And this is not an issue that we can look the other way at. It's actually, this is the last stand. Once this biological wildfire does come in, we will be losing a resource that we cannot get back. Unlike a natural wildfire, a terrestrial wildfire, where it replenishes the ecosystem, this type of biological wildfire will not replenish. We will lose what we have. Well, I think that the biggest thing is the Department of Agriculture for Idaho has been probably the biggest player and helped me along. They've hired tremendous people, Amy Ferreter, Tom Wolf, people that this program would not be up and running if it had not been for people like that. Director Gould, she's been fabulous. She's been a great support. I suppose the most important thing I did is I was just a pest. And I was one of those invasive species also in the legislature. I wouldn't let this subject matter go away. I live on a lake. This started with another aquatic invasive, Eurasian water milfoil, and I saw what it was doing to our systems up here in the Northwest, and I realized we had to stop that. I learned later about the bivalves and the other aquatics, the zebra and quagga mussels. And when the introduction happened in Lake Mead, I realized that now this was in our backyard and we had to do something quick. And it's become quite an effort, not only from myself, but there's another half a dozen legislators that became very active with me. And most of those legislators do live in the north, where we have open water recreation issues. If it had not been for my colleagues in the south, though, that were involved in agriculture, we never would have been successful. And we had to prove to them that this invader is going to impact their irrigation canals. All of the different things that they use, all the components for irrigation that they use to harvest their crops, they're going to lose all of that also. And so it was an effort statewide, different regions, different dynamics, but this type of invader will impact the entire state of Idaho, and in fact the entire Northwest. And we need to draw a line in the sand and say, no more, we're going to stop it here. As a state legislator and trying to bring a program forward, and Idaho's being successful in doing that, we realize that this is not a state issue. This is a regional issue. It should be a national issue. We have engaged with an organization called PNWAR, the Pacific Northwest Economic Region, 3 provinces out of Canada, 2 territories, and the 4 northwestern states. And we have formed an invasive species council. The headwaters of the Columbia system, Idaho shares headwaters with Oregon, with Montana. All those systems feed into one another. This had to be something that we attacked on a regional basis, and Montana's become great champions. Their legislature has passed very relevant laws that are going to help us protect our systems also. Nevada's working on theirs right now, and some positive, very positive outtakes on this. Well, we had to do this in phases. First of all, we passed our invasive species laws, and primarily for the aquatic environment. To transport invasive is a crime, and it's a severe penalty. If I'm trying to remember the numbers here. I think it's $10,000 is the actual fine, and it's the intent is not to fine people. The intent is to tell people how serious this is, and that if they are transporting invasives on their person or on their equipment, that they will possibly suffer that type of penalty. The next phase was we had to find a way to fund, and we chose the registration, boat registrations. Many other states have followed suit with that, but Idaho took it a step further, and we actually used the non-motorized and motorized users of our system. The motorized users of the system out of state, it's a $20 fee and a $2 vendor fee, so a total of $22. If you're in state, it's $10, and if you're a non-motorized, it's $5 with a $2 vendor fee. The first year we did not have the vendor fee included, but we've realized that we had to have vendors to make this program work. So There's been a few things that we've had to learn along the way, but they've been very successful. It produces just under $2 million a year, and it's used through a series of currently 22 wash stations, strategically located around the state on high thoroughfare access points. Idaho has hundreds of entry points into the state. You couldn't put an inspection station on every one, but we know where 95% of all traffic comes through the state, and we were able to put some inspection sites on those roadways. So it's been very effective. The first week of May here, we had a boat that was transported by a professional hauler out of Lake Mead, and it did have mussels on that boat. We decontaminated that boat this morning, and also this week we had a boat that came out of the Great Lakes that was intercepted, and it will be decontaminated also. Basically, our front is to the east of us and also to the south, so we have to watch both of those borders. We also have some other issues Idaho does have a port of entry, an actual harbor port down in Lewiston, so we're very aware of other things that could be transported through that venue also. Well, we have Montana, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington are the four northwestern states that still do not have the quagga and zebra mussel infestations. Of course, the three provinces of Saskatchewan, Alberta, and British Columbia are also still not infected. We need to coordinate together to try to protect our resources here. We only have one shot at this. One boat gets through, one waterway, one system. If we have an introduction here at Coeur d'Alene Lake, it'll be all the way through the Columbia system in just a matter of time, in a very short period of time. So we're all impacted. We have to understand that not only as policymakers, but as users of the systems. If we're fishermen, or whether we recreate, we water ski, or whether we farm the land, we understand that we're all in this together, and if we don't work together, we will not be successful. And the more we educate, the more that we have opportunities like this to spread the word, the better chances we will have to prohibit the introduction of these very, very bad critters. We as policymakers, we can pass laws, and we can prohibit things, and we can provide for the resources to have inspection sites. But where I live at Priest Lake, what we also have is a homeowners associations around the lake, and also a lakes association that's formed. And we monitor our every access, every boat ramp. We have monitors in the water. We check those monthly to determine whether or not anything's changing in those systems. I can't emphasize the importance of that enough. We've engaged the Boy Scouts of America. A lot of the Eagle projects now are involving the young scouts. They're adopting ramps themselves and making that their Eagle projects. It's an education component, but it's also a fiscal, an economic component. There's only so much money available through these projects, and so we need volunteerism. We can't emphasize that enough. It's vital that we have that. So anybody that lives out there on a lake, or they recreate, or they use those systems, join your local lake association and participate, and encourage them to do monitoring at your ramps, your boat launches. The most important thing we can do is identify early on if there's going to be something introduced into our systems.